What's up, everybody? I'm Caleb Ochoa, also known as NFL Caleb 22, and this is Ben NFL Week number 3. And as always, I am here with my co-host Derek Leslie, also known as DWeezy. What's going on, man?
Not much. Another week back at the grind. Here for more action. You know, ready to get into it. See what side of the line we fall on when it's all said and done. As we break down another week in the NFL.
All right, man. I'm doing amazing, man. I am great. My Cowboys are looking good, and my betting is looking good. I mean, everything's just going good for me. I hope that continues going into this week. We'll have to see about that. But before we get into this week, we have to recap last week and what happened in week 2, and that's what we'll do right now. Um, we'll go over the overs, and the overs dominated 13-3. I didn't think it would go so in an opposite direction as it did week 1, because we in week 1 we saw the unders dominate, and now we see the complete opposite. I had no idea it would go that way. um, but there you go. Favorites 10-5-1 against the spread. Home teams were 7-8-1 against 7-8-1 against the spread. So away teams had the edge there, and home underdogs with a 4-2 record against the spread. So with all that, what did you think about any of these numbers from week 2?
Um, it's hard, in my opinion. It's hard to invest too much into what we're seeing so far, but I definitely think some of these teams are going to start. As we're getting past that preseason phase. People are figuring out their
Mm-hmm.
offenses. People are gelling. I think we see, you know, if the overs are starting to come in early, we might see that continue for a few weeks as defenses react to what they're seeing out of some of the adjustments that are being made by offenses across the NFL.
Absolutely. We'll have to see if that continues. I mean, maybe the offense is starting to get going. And so the more points scored. I think a lot of it had to do with just the over adjustment from week 1, and they kind of lowered their point totals um, to compensate for all the unders hitting, and therefore when they may have adjusted too much, and that forced all the overs to be hidden. Um, it could be another overreaction going into week 3, and they might adjust back the other way, and so you might want to take the unders in week 3. Anticipating for another overreaction there. But we'll say, hey, what's up to Adelia? How's it going? Next, we'll get to the biggest upset of the week, and that was the Seahawks uh, plus 5.5 versus the Detroit Lions. And this was one of my picks. The Seahawks. I thought the Seahawks would bounce back, and that's exactly what they did. I thought, like I said before, the Lions didn't really impress me in the opening night game. That's why I like the Seahawks in this position. I just did not think the Lions were 5.5 points better. I mean, I thought the line was a little skewed, a little overreaction from the Seahawks losing badly to the Rams, and the Lions winning over the Chiefs. I thought it was an overreaction. I thought the line should have been more 3, so I jumped all over that and took the Seahawks, and that was a good win for me. Um, yeah, but what did you think about Seahawks versus Lions?
It was definitely surprising, just the Seahawks offense, the way they were able to produce. I think people had higher expectations when it came to Detroit's defense, and so far this season, I don't think we've really seen that. Um, I think in week 1, that game versus the Chiefs wasn't an accurate depiction of what we can possibly expect from the Lions defense. And I think the Seahawks exposed that. I don't think too many people have the Seahawks sitting very high as far as their ratings and things of that nature. Um, and they were a team that upset a lot of people last year, and that they might find themselves in that role again this year because I, like you said, you felt the line was too high, not necessarily that Detroit shouldn't be favored. And that's a great reason to jump on the line, especially if you feel the number is wrong. Um, but yeah, so them losing outright, I definitely think was a statement by the Seahawks. This was a game the Lions could have won, but I think because their defense allowed the Seahawks to stay in this game, and ultimately they ended up losing outright.
All right, we'll say what's up to my dad. Um, all right, and next we'll get into this is the big story of the week, betting wise at least, the biggest story in betting, the bad beat of the week. Because if you took the 49ers minus 7.5, you had it. You had it in the bag. You can go to the bank, you cash it in. It was done. It was over with. You knew you had it until Sean McVay decides to kick a field goal with time expiring, down 10 points. You weren't going to win the game with a field goal, but you kicked the field goal anyways. I don't even know what to say. Like, he must have known the spread. He had to have known the spread. I mean, there's no other reason to kick that field goal unless you know the spread. But that's exactly what happened. He kicks the field goal. They the Rams lose by 7, just edging out that 7.5 points. And all those Niners betters are. I mean, I feel for you because that is some bullshit. I mean, honestly, there's no other way to say it. Well, what do you think of this? This whatever you call it, man.
Like you said, it definitely raises a lot of questions about what was going through McVay's head. The even just the irony of it that makes it even better is this was a team located in a state that doesn't have any form of retail or mobile sports betting, to my knowledge, in California. So, you know, depending on how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go with conspiracy theories, it can definitely get very interesting very quick. But it's it, there doesn't seem to be anything logical to explain it other than somebody knew the spread, somebody knew something. I mean, it, it's a big one to bite off and chew to try and say that that was the he was worried about the seventh tiebreaker. That's what was driving his motivation behind that field goal. Um, I mean, it's just wild. I had -7 on the 49ers. I wind up with a push behind that. I was telling people last week 49ers could win that game by double digits. They basically were winning that game by double digits. Um, so, yeah, um, can't say I'm too happy with McVay. I don't think he's getting a Christmas card this year.
Nah, very a lot of upset betters on that one. Even if you had them with the 7 points, that's still a push. You're still not winning when you had it. You had the win,
But you said
and
it's in the
you
back.
just
4 seconds left. 4 seconds. You got 10 points. No set. Yeah.
it doesn't make sense. Like if you're trying to score, then go for it. Like throw a Hail Mary into the end zone. Okay, if you want to score that bad, then score. Like don't. What's a field goal gonna do? What's a field goal gonna do? Does nothing for you. Just screws all the betters over. That's exactly what we're trying to do. You had to have some money on it. I know you had some money on McVay. You can't fool me. But it is what it is. Um, all right. Um, as for me, my record in week 2, great 4-2. I mean 4-1. I mean only one loss. Should have gone perfect. But that overall, that gets me at 7-3. I am starting off hot for the first 2 weeks of this season, and I'm damn proud of myself. I gotta say, but we'll say what's up to Brandon Mazel. What's going on? He said he's betting this week for sure. That is awesome, man. Then you're really gonna want to watch the rest of the show because we're gonna tell you exactly who to bet for coming up. Um, like I said, I'm on a hot streak, so you might want to lean towards my way. Just saying.
So, and if you want to double that up, go ahead and fade my tail because I can't seem to avoid the push. If I mean, it's catching me every week. Otherwise, I'd probably be floating somewhere around 50%, which ain't too bad. But I'm hitting more pushes than wins, and when you're falling on the razor's edge that much, I'd rather be on the other side of it personally.
Exactly. That's the thing. You could be really good or really awful. Either way, it's hard to do. It's hard to be really bad and really good. I mean, both right. It's kind of easy just go like that 50% because that's where most bettors are around that 50% area, in which you're not really making really money if you're around that area. But my best pick was the Tennessee Titans +2.5 versus Chargers. And I know you were on the other side of this bet. This is the one we disagreed on last week. And I gotta say, I had to tell you so. I told you so, but kind of told you so. Um, yeah, the Chargers, close games. They're bad. They're bad in close games. They lose. That's what they do. They lose. Titans, when Tannehill and when Derrick Henry are healthy, they cover spreads, and that's what I love about them because I get to bet on them, and I do bet on them often in those cases. Um, that's just what happens, and the Chargers put up a lot of points, but they do not cover the spreads, and they lose games in close fashions like they did in overtime, and that's just what happens, and that's why I really like this play.
Yeah, I think best play for me last week. Honestly, it had to, even though it ended up being a push, it had to be that San Fran play because it was locked in all the way. I mean, you don't get much closer to a W without having it in the bag. And so, it's one of those random things that you can't really predict. That's why you definitely hear me say it. It's about what your handicap was before the game started. Nobody's going to be able to predict exactly how things turn out. And if you had things damn near nailed down all the way and one or two plays go the opposite direction or slightly different, and that be the difference between your bet losing and winning, it's hard to be upset about that outcome. I mean, you're talking about a game of inches on the field, just winning and losing, and you mix in betting and all the different angles and odds and possibilities, and you get close, can't really be mad at it. So even though it ended up a push, or if you unfortunately had that hook at 7.5, a loss for a lot of folks out there. I think if you was riding with San Fran -7, -7.5, that was a best play last week.
Absolutely. He says he's betting the Panthers to win by 12. Is that one of your picks? I
Man,
want to.
you can donate that to charity.
Okay, so that's not that's not one of your picks. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
nah.
I want to go the other way.
I mean, I put the hat on, but I greatly considered putting on my Charlotte Hornets hat because like the NFL starting off a little rough got me looking forward to the NBA starting back up. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about betting the Panthers. I'm going to stay away from them for pretty much most of the season. But we talked about the good, so we got to talk about the bad as well. And my worst pick was my only loss, and that was the Raiders plus 7.5 versus the Bills. Yeah, I mean, just like the overs, I definitely overreacted to week one on this one. The Raiders went out there and won, and the Bills looked like crap against the Jets. So I didn't think the Raiders were going to win, but at least they thought they could get close, and that obviously didn't happen. Bills bounced back in a great way. Josh Allen looked terrific. He had 3 touchdowns, no picks. James Cook ran for 123 yards. I mean, their offense just looked really awesome, and the Raiders defense looked like crap, and they were never going to keep it close. And yeah, bad overreaction on my part, but sometimes that happens.
Sorry, I was trying to pull up mine from last
Yeah,
week. Give me
go
just
ahead.
1 second. Um, yeah, I think as far as the worst beat I had, had to be that Packers game. You know, having a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter against a team that a lot of people, you know, the Atlanta Falcons are riding high right now. Definitely well deserved, starting 2-0. But there's a lot of people out there shocked that they are 2-0 this far into the season. But for the Packers to be up double digits in the fourth quarter and to end up losing it, it was borderline painful. The Packers offense was what I think people tended to worry about coming into the season, and so far the offense has been able to deliver. Now it'll be a question if we see that continue as injuries are starting to be a little bit of a concern in Green Bay. But as I said, you have a team like the Falcons down by double digits and you in the fourth quarter and you can't seal that victory. Man, even with a skinny spread like what we was looking at, is just downright painful that the Packers didn't walk away with the W in that game.
Yeah. That was the reason why we talk about that. We got to learn from our mistakes, and we got to get better in the next week, and that's how we become betters. Right. But before we get into that'll be a recap of the week two. Before we get into week three, I just we like to help you guys out. You guys can help us out by subscribing to the channel, hitting that like button on this video. And if you really want to support us, join our Patreon. The link is in the description down below. We would very much appreciate it. We just appreciate you guys watching the video right now. But if you guys can help us out, definitely appreciate it that much more. Okay, now what you guys all tuned in for, and that is our week 3 bets. And I started off last week, so I'm going to let you start this week. You go ahead and give us your first bet of the week.
To kick things off, some news that I seen right before we came on. I hadn't had a chance to double check this, but it was enough to make me go and check the lines. Indianapolis Colts taking on the Ravens. Gardner Minshew will be starting for the Colts
Oh
as
wow!
Anthony Richardson hasn't been able to clear concussion protocol essentially in enough time. I don't know the full details, but like I said, it was enough to make me go check the spread. And what I saw this spread as, around -9.5 when it opened, -9 in some places, maybe slightly lower. And that bad boy's sitting at 7.5 right now. I'm more than happy to jump on that, especially if we're talking about the Indianapolis Colts going out there with Gardner Minshew. Um, I I do think the Ravens have enough pass rush to, even though Minshew does have mobility, I don't think he is mobile enough to be able to get away from the rush that he's potentially going to see. And also, we've seen that without Jonathan Taylor out there, they've just lacked a spark on offense to help get things going. And on the flip side of that, we've seen this Ravens offense excel under their new offensive coordinator. Um, I'm not sure if we'll see OBJ this weekend as he's been a little banged up. But either way, Zay Flowers is potentially putting a performance out there to rookie of the year. I'm not sure the number on him, but he is somebody that if you're taking early shots at potential rookie of the year, what he's doing and can potentially continue to do in his role with the Ravens might be a number you want to look at. But yeah, to get the Ravens at -7.5, I'm definitely jumping on that.
Yeah, obviously I did not know that information, so I kind of stayed away from that game. But definitely the Ravens, I think, are capable of covering that spread. Just wasn't sure. I mean, but Colts kind of look pretty good. Not sure what I'm really getting out of them. Definitely don't know what I'm getting out of them with Gardner Minshew now. So I just when there's question marks, I don't know. I tend to just stay away from it completely. But for my first bet, I got look at here. The Titans once again, +3 at the Browns. I mean, it's just what I do. I bet the Titans because they cover. And if you're going to give me 3 points against the Browns team, then I'm going to take that all day. I don't even care if it's in Cleveland, because the Titans can stop the run, and that's what the Browns' offense is. It's just a running team, especially with how bad Watson looks. But guess what? Nick Chubb is hurt, so the running game is going to get a little worse without him in there. And it's going to be more even reliant on Watson to throw the ball, which he doesn't seem like he can do anymore. Um, and like I said before, when Tannehill's healthy, when Derrick Henry's healthy, Titans cover spreads. That's just what happens. So I'm going to keep on betting them. I'm going to bet them this week. They had a good comeback win last week, and I think they can take that momentum into this game and keep on rolling. So that's what I got.
I'm right there with you on the same play for this game, riding with the Titans, getting the points. Honestly, this is another situation where I feel the wrong team is favored. If anything, this should be closer to a pick 'em or the Titans being favored by a point or two. But for the for the Browns to go out there with no Nick Chubb, um, that's the type of blow I'm not sure their offense will be able to survive as we move further into the season because by all accounts, Deshaun Watson has almost forgotten how to play quarterback at the NFL level, which is fairly unfortunate for the Browns organization just from the standpoint they've hitched their wagon to that so hard that you there's no walking away from his contract or him as the quarterback unless you actually have somebody else that you can put out there, which isn't the case at the moment. And so if we're going to see this Browns team continue to roll out on the field as is, definitely look to fade them because without Nick Chubb, you know, you're talking about being without a potential offensive player of the year, depending on how his season went. One, because of the amount of utilization within the Browns offense, and two, just he's been that productive of a player over his career. That's a major loss, and there isn't much around that Browns offense that you're looking at as weapons or anybody that makes you scared. So regardless of how well that defense goes out there and plays, ultimately I see the Browns losing a lot of these games. And if you're talking about them being favored, losing outright, you're already talking about winning on the spread.
That was your second bet.
Yes.
All right, I'll get to my second one, and that is the Broncos at the Dolphins. I'm taking the Dolphins -6.5. Yeah, the Broncos don't look very good. They lost to Jimmy G and Sam Howell, which they just gave up 35 points to. Um, I don't think they have really a shot of stopping the Dolphins' weapons. They just got too much on offense, too much firepower, and the Broncos can't really do anything to defend it, especially when they couldn't even defend Washington's weapons. Um, Broncos have to go to Miami, which definitely can be a problem for them. That those West teams going to the East Coast or more of a problem than East to West. So that definitely can be a effect there. Um, yeah, Delia, the Broncos fan. Yeah, she even knows how bad her team is right now. So 6.5 points, definitely not too large of a spread. Where I definitely feel confident that the Dolphins can cover in that. Broncos 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games, 2-8 against spread versus Miami, and Miami 5-0 against spread in the last 5 games. So definitely like the Dolphins in this situation.
Yeah, this is another pick right out of my bag. This is actually my next pick. I was able to get this when it first opened at -6. We've seen it tick up half a point already. I wouldn't be surprised come Sunday and kickoff. We're talking about this game being possibly 7.5, 8 points. Um, we got a few double digit spreads out there this week. I'm actually surprised that this isn't one that threatened closer to that double digit territory. Um, I would have expected to see this more in the 8 to 9 range, but that not being the case, I'm going right back to the Dolphins, who, depending where you got in the number last week, you're probably walking away with a victory. Um, they've been good to me. I think this offense is definitely too high powered, too fast. Sorry, Adelia, we're not picking on your Broncos, but even you said it. They are garbage. The Sean Payton experiment is definitely not off to a good start. You throw in the travel concerns, a West Coast team coming east. There's just a lot of indicators in this game to lean towards the Dolphins, and you're talking less than a touchdown spread. I'll gladly take one of the best offenses in the league with that kind of spread.
All right, we're definitely in some agreement there. 2 games in a row. But we'll see if we get this next pick, and that is I got the Steelers plus 2.5 at the Las Vegas Raiders. Um, as we saw Monday night, this defense of the Steelers caused problems, especially against Raiders offense that has yet to score more than 17 points in their first 2 games. That's definitely going to be a problem for them. I'm not. You saw what TJ Watt can do, um, so he's going to be all over Jimmy G, um, who was very bad against the Bills. He threw 2 picks, and they didn't really have a running game either. I mean, Josh Jacobs ran for -2 yards. So that's what I'm really betting on is the Steelers defense to show up. I know they've had some their struggles in offense, but this Raiders defense just gave up some points in the last game. So I think this is definitely a situation where they can get right. And that's why I'm going to take the Steelers with the points. Can't believe the Steelers are even underdogs in this game with how bad the Raiders look. But Steelers 5-1 against the spread in the last 6. So I'm all over Pittsburgh this week.
Yes, it definitely could be a question of can the Las Vegas Raiders outscore the Pittsburgh Steelers defense? Because as we saw last week, the Steelers put up 14 points on defense. This, especially in the pass rush and along the defensive line, I do think the Steelers are a bit underrated. Alex Highsmith has been a bit of a force, and I think because of TJ Watt being there, not that he's lost playing time, but he's been overshadowed a bit, and so not too many people out there have really noticed what Alex Highsmith has done in the past, and I think he showed off a bit of that athleticism um, with that pick six play um, against 49ers. As you mentioned, Jimmy G, he's going to be back there running for his life. Clearly, the Raiders do not have things together. If you're going to tell me that you're fading Josh McDaniels as a head coach, I'm all for it because I don't have his record right in front of me, but I'm willing to bet it is god awful. So if you're talking about, like again, another instance where probably the wrong team's favored. So take those points with the Steelers and bet against Josh McDaniels. So I'd definitely ride with that.
All right.
Now,
Your fourth
moving
pick.
into my next play, I'm gonna be going to the Philadelphia Eagles -5 as they take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay Buccaneers is another one of these teams. To start 2-0, many people didn't most likely expect them to start the season 2-0. Surprisingly, and not every team except my Panthers in the NFC South has started the season 2-0. So, I do think this is the week that the Bucs catch their first loss. We've seen the Eagles basically go out and play in a lot of ways that we've expected. They were a little banged up in the running back department this past game, but even still, the offense was able to go out and push the ball and move the ball. Um, I don't necessarily want to say easily, but I think we saw a more cohesiveness than what was seen in their first game against the New England Patriots. And, you know, yes, I do think Tampa has a pretty good defense. And while that might slow down the offense for the Philadelphia Eagles, we also haven't seen this Eagles offense necessarily running at full strength. There's been a lot of attention recently to the lack of usage of AJ Brown and things of that nature. So I do think that the Eagles defense will stifle and basically shut down Baker Mayfield and the lack of offense that exists for the Buccaneers. So -5, less than a touchdown, I'll gladly jump on the Eagles.
And we were doing so well, man. We were agreeing so much this week, and you just had to go and ruin it. It's just terrible. This is my next pick. I'm
I
on
will
the
not back Baker Mayfield. I will gladly stick with my Panthers when it comes to Baker Mayfield.
well, as a Longhorn fan, it feels gross to back him as well. Feel disgusted, but I'm gonna bet on put my money on Mr. Baker Mayfield there with the Bucks getting 5 points. Um, just don't like the way the Eagles have looked in the first couple of games. Yeah, they're 2-0, but they haven't looked all that great doing it. They mostly just ran all game against the Vikings, and if the Vikings didn't turn over the ball so goddamn much, the Vikings would have won that game. They gave up 20 points to Cousins. And then Mac Jones in the second half was driving the ball up and down the field on them. So this Eagles defense hasn't looked good, at least to me. Especially their secondary looks very vulnerable to me. And Baker Mayfield, he's looked better than I thought he was going to look in the first two games. Um, he's definitely had a good connection with Mike Evans, and I think that he can definitely exploit the Eagles secondary in this game, and that's why I like getting the points here. They don't necessarily have to win, but they can keep it close. They I think they can cover. That's why I like them here, especially because they're good at stopping it. Like you said, they have pretty good defense. They stop the run. That's what the Eagles like to do. They like to run the ball all game. I think the Bucks are just defense to stop that because another team that likes to run is the Bears. The Bears are reliant on their run game, and they stopped them for like 67 yards last week. So I think they can do the same thing to the Eagles, which will definitely stifle their offense and and now able to keep it close to cover that 5 point spread.
All right, moving into my next pick. Um, got the New England Patriots -2.5 as they take on the New York Jets, now led by Zach Wilson. As everybody's clearly heard that Rodgers will be done for the season, and by all accounts, the Jets are sticking with Zach Wilson. They're not looking to bring in um, a potential journeyman to necessarily fight for that starting position. And Bill Belichick has shown in the past that when it comes to young, inexperienced quarterbacks, he's for the most part been able to dominate those matchups. And that's something I'm gonna look at here as you know we saw last year at times that, even with all cylinders going on this New York offense with Bryce Hall, Garrett Wilson, it was the quarterback position that was holding it back. And when that wasn't clicking, this offense and this team really wasn't having success. And I think we see a lot of that this Sunday as the Patriots defense. You know, is it Sam Darnold seeing ghosts 2.0? I won't go that far, but I do think Zach Wilson is going to have a lot of struggles as they take on the Patriots, and potential to, cover the spread, winning by a field goal. I definitely am fading the Jets in this situation.
Yeah, I do like that pick. It's just struggle to see the Patriots 0-2. Um, that's why I kind of stay away from this game. I really don't know how actually good they are. Played obviously very tough against the first two opponents, but they end up losing. Um, but the Jets got the win against the Bills in Week 1 with Zach Wilson, so that's why it kind of makes me iffy on this game. I can't really say either one. I don't really got a good feel for that game, so I just couldn't make that one as one of my bets. But for my last pick, I got what do I have? I need to write down. Um, shoot. Oh, I got the Bengals. Let's see. Hold on. Oh, I got the Rams plus. I forgot how much they're even. But I got the Rams over the Bengals. I have to look up the line real quick. But yeah, like you said, a lot of people saying Joe Burrow's hurt. And they're not sure if he's gonna play.
I'm seeing minus
But
or plus 2.5 for the Rams.
okay, plus 2.5. Thank you. Um, yeah, plus 2.5 for the Rams. That's why I like the Rams. They don't not sure if Burrow will play, but Vegas is indicating that he will not play because that line was a lot higher before going this week, and so the line shifting so much kind of indicates that he probably won't play. And if that's the case, I definitely like the Rams getting the points. Um, obviously, I've been pretty impressed with how the Rams played. I mean, obviously, I did not like them going into the season. Thought they were going to be pretty bad, and they look pretty good. I mean, they played really tough against the 49ers. They got the big upset win against the Seahawks. And, I think by them getting points, I think definitely can cover that. And we saw McVay is willing to do whatever it takes to cover a spread. So why not go with that kind of type of coach?
Yeah, you definitely, you got to feel more confident about backing the Rams on the spread, knowing that you got a head coach like McVay at the helm. Now, I will definitely say there's a lot of questions surrounding this Bengals team. You know, there was questions about just how hurt or nicked up Burrow was coming into the season and through preseason. Um, and I think maybe that's starting to show now, especially if we don't see him play. It would explain why you've seen such a price drop as far as the spread. Quarterback position is gonna move the price like that. That's why I was so shocked that we've seen the movement being against the Ravens in their matchup, even if this news isn't official, even if it just came out right before coming on the show. The action and the handle coming in shows that people have been betting the Colts, and that's even with the possibility of Richardson not returning and concussion protocol. So yeah, if we're talking about Cincinnati Bengals minus Joe Burrow, I can't even tell you who the backup quarterback in Cincinnati is right now.
I
So
have no idea.
exactly. Um, so that being said, yes, would there be a lot of talent available? But at the same time, McVay's shown that he's an adequate head coach when it comes to the X's and O's and scheming. And you know, some people may have his number. He may not be the best out there, but he's definitely shown that um, if you're gonna give him a lackluster quarterback to go up against, they're probably gonna find a few ways to make it difficult on that quarterback, and they don't have the running game in Cincinnati to try and lean on the quarterback if it's not Joe Burrow, because that's the way their offense is set up. Put the ball in Joe Burrow's hands, let him get it to the likes of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, um, Joe Mixon, and in the past it was Shamaj P. Ryan. But the running backs have been utilized in the pass game a lot. So this was definitely a pass oriented offense. And if there's no Joe Burrow, plus 2.5 for the Rams, there's a chance they win this game outright. So yeah, I would definitely feel confident about that. Moving into my final play, going to the Buffalo Bills, taking on the Washington Commanders. We just saw the Commanders go toe to toe with that atrocious uh, Broncos team. I think that we see, the Bills come in, be able to shut down this offense, and the Bills probably score more similar to what we saw when the Commanders took on. I believe it was I'm forgetting who they took on in Week 1. But I believe the final score was somewhere around 22-25 in that range. Not a particularly high scoring game. Um, and the Bills, outside Week 1, yes, I think was a bit of a preseason game. While the offense wasn't able to go out there and produce for the most part, the defense played especially well in Week 1. Um, I think technically only giving up 16 points on defense because they lost the game on that punt return. Um, Maybe it was slightly more than that, but um, I'm there's a lot of questions still around this Washington's Commanders offense. I wouldn't put much stock into being able to rack up a lot of points against Denver Broncos. Going up against the Buffalo Bills this week, the spread would probably be a little higher. The Bills had one in Week 1, but I'm riding with -6.5 on the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I'm a little disagreeing here. Actually, this is going to be one of my picks. I kind of crossed this one out for some of the reasons that you said. I actually had the Commanders taking the points, but then I remember taking the Raiders in the points against the Bills last week, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that again. So I crossed it out and went a different way there. But because you might be right, my Bills might just go in there and kick their ass. Very possible they just did it last week. Um, so that one I just stay away from. Not really sure, but you know it, it might go your way. But we all hope so. You know. All right, that will. Any more bets?
Um, Nothing official. Now, something I was looking at
Okay.
targeting in a few instances, especially with some of these larger spreads, looking at ways of mixing that into a possible teaser, because even in the NFL, even, we see currently a 10-point spread in the 49ers Giants game. If you're talking about teasing that down or even teasing it up one way or another, a 16-point spread is a very big number in the NFL. Not saying that the 49ers couldn't cover something like that, but at the same time, if you want to push that number down, um, the 49ers -6, -6.5 in that range, or no, -4, -4.5 in that range, is definitely a hell of a lot more enticing than the possibility of playing them at -10. Um, Looking at the Jacksonville game, the same sort of logic can apply, regardless of which way you're moving that number. Now, me personally, I would like bringing the number down on Jacksonville, thinking, that they'll win outright. But I think when you get some of these larger spreads, like what we see, with the Cowboys versus the Cardinals, You gonna tell me that you wouldn't like the opportunity to be able to take the Cowboys at -6, less than a touchdown, taking on possibly the worst team in the league, the Arizona Cardinals? I mean, there's just a number of ways where I think more so with some of these larger spreads that we see, and especially the double-digit spreads, teasers are whether it be a 2 or 3 leg teaser, are great ways to attack some of these games simply because of how high one, how high the spread is originally, and two, potentially how high you can take that spread.
All right. Hopefully it helps you guys out. Because that's the whole goal of the show, to win you guys money. That's what we're trying to do here. But for now, you can tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, y'all can reach me at Backyard Action Media here on YouTube and on Twitter/X, The Yard Bets.
All right. You can find me at NFLCaleb22 on Instagram and Twitter/X. You can also find me on this channel on Fridays at 3 o'clock doing Good Friends, Better Rivals with my co-host, Varys McDonough, who is a Giants fan. We talk Giants, Cowboys on that show, recapping the week and previewing the next week ahead. We go at each other a lot, and we have a lot of fun doing that. So go ahead and tune in for that. Um, and also, like I said, thanks for tuning in. Love having you guys here. Keep go get your bets in, and go ahead and try to win some money. That's what we like to do. But for now, we'll see you next week. Make even more money, and as always, let's get ready to make that money.